My husband is planning an accident in my car, brake failure and serious head injury, in order to make the path clear for him to marry Tiggy. This is the letter that Princess Diana wrote before she was killed in an accident.
The Diana, Princess of Wales, has been killed in a car accident.
She was scared that her husband Prince Charles was planning to get rid of her, just so he could marry Tiggy Leg Bork, the companion and nanny to Prince William and Harry. The name in Diana's note was never officially confirmed. Although Prince Charles did not marry Tiggy, what baffles me the most is exactly how Diana was able to predict the exact scenario that took her life. Because those were the exact reasons that were mentioned in that letter. Accident by car, head injury, brake failure that she experienced several times before her death. So does this mean that Diana overheard Charles plotting her death? Or were they tapping her phone that made Diana so sure that something worse was about to happen to her? Well, there are multiple loopholes which clearly indicate that Princess Diana was not killed by reckless driving of her driver. It was a carefully, well-laid, sophisticated, systematized, and calculated plan that stole one of the most influential members of the British royal family. Like, why out of the entire city of Paris she was killed in a tunnel? A perfect place where no one could watch from above. And what happened under that tunnel was covered up by a mysterious, unexplainable flashlight. So 14 CCTV cameras could not see what actually happened. It's also worth noting that almost no one in the car was wearing a seatbelt that night. Then comes the ambulance part, which took more than an hour and 30 minutes to take Diana to the hospital from the location of the accident. The distance was only about 6 kilometers. Officials say the ambulance deliberately drove slowly and stopped on the way, on medical orders, because Diana's blood pressure had dropped. But critics still question why it took so long. One of the most striking claims comes from a former Secret Intelligence Service officer, Richard Tomlinson, who alleged that MI6 was monitoring Diana's movements. At the 2008 inquest, he could not confirm key details, and his claims were not upheld by the court.
They have murdered my son and Princess Diana, and I put my finger straight, royal household, Prince Philip.
And the flashlight or bright light that was used by 2 unknown bikers, which caused the accident, matches an alleged MI6 plan to kill Yugoslav President Slobodan Milosevic by causing a crash. A plan that, according to former officer Richard Tomlinson, was drafted but never carried out.
There was a proposal to attack his car while it was passing through one of the tunnels in Geneva using a strobe to disorient the driver of his car. The strobe was a very, very bright flashing light, bright enough to temporarily blind someone. This would cause his car to crash, and because of proximity of concrete in a tunnel, the accident would be probably serious enough to kill him. The other advantage of in a tunnel is that there's no witnesses.
By now, many people believe they know what really happened that night. But in this video, we'll break down every loophole in detail so that you can make a reasonable decision about what happened that night. Because people are not stupid. The world is not stupid. They can see, analyze, and confidently calculate what's happening on the internet. And after watching this video, you'll know what really happened to the international icon and mother of Prince William and Harry, Princess Diana.
They see me as a threat of some kind. And I'm here to do good. I'm not a destructive person.
Royal Highness?
It was the year 1995. Diana sat in her car and went out for a drive. She was on her way to visit her brother Charles Spencer, but what she was about to witness next was something she never imagined. She stops at a red light and notices some of the fans following her. As she was so private about her life, she speeds up and tries to escape from getting pictured. However, as she passes through a few hundred meters, she notices something weird with her brakes. Suddenly, the brakes stopped working, and Diana was approaching an intersection. Fortunately, somehow she manages to avoid a deadly accident, but this near-death experience convinces her to believe that something very wrong is going on. She stops the vehicle at the side of the road, takes a few moments to catch her breath, and immediately calls her brother. She said, "I think they've fiddled with the brakes on my car now as well. They might just need a service." Now, the word "they" here was the most controversial part of the line. What she meant by "they" here? Who was she specifically referring to? This was around the time when rumors of her separation with her husband Charles were spreading worldwide. The Queen and Prince Philip hosted several meetings to reconcile their relationship, but there was no sign of the two of them getting back together. Despite being married, Charles was already in a relationship with his former girlfriend, Camilla Parker Bowles.
Why would I care about her?
Because I care about her!
And Diana was deeply in a relationship with someone within their environment. She did not specify the man's name, but it was believed that Diana's bodyguard, Barry Manickey, was the one. The same man was transferred to the Diplomatic Protection Squad in 1986, after his manager realized that his relationship with Diana was against the rules. Sure, both of them were moving on with their lives, but subconsciously Diana was getting affected more than what Charles was going through. In fact, Diana was so disturbed by watching Charles with Camilla that she began to have suicidal thoughts in her mind.
Not the mother of your children.
Don't bring the boys into this.
All right. Not the woman you married!
I refuse to be blamed any longer for this grotesque misalliance! I wash my hands of it!
This was revealed in a 1992 book called Diana, Her True Story, which was written by Andrew Morton. Andrew's information came through British doctor James Colthurst, who secretly carried Morton's questions to Diana and recorded her answers. And the moment people came to know about Diana's mental health issues, it caused a massive storm in the media.
Why do they see you as a threat?
I think every strong woman in history has had to walk down a similar path, and I think it's the strength that causes the confusion and the fear. Why is she strong? Where does she get it from? Where is she taking it? Where is she going to use it?
The situation about their marital issues became much clearer when Diana confronted Camilla, Charles's ex-girlfriend, at a birthday party. This party was for Camilla's sister, Annabelle Elliott, held at a private house in Ham, near Richmond. Now, seeing a woman at the party, someone who's trying to steal her husband, someone who was not afraid to show up with her sister, and enjoying herself there like she's the actual princess, was something that Diana could not handle anymore. Because it was something that Diana could not imagine doing with Charles. Sure, she was in a relationship with James Hewitt, their former riding instructor, and a retired cavalry officer in the British Army. But she never imagined organizing a grand party to show Charles who's the new king. This was a serious damage to their marriage, which was bound to result in divorce between the two. Diana was already suffering from depression and even attempted to kill herself because of their growing differences. Because just 1 week after their engagement, she overheard Charles on a phone call with Camilla. Like he was obsessed with that woman. It broke Diana's heart. It made her hate herself like she was not good enough for Charles. Yet she wanted to try and save her marriage.
What effect did the depression have on your marriage?
Well, it gave everybody a wonderful new label. It's Diana's unstable, and Diana's mentally imbalanced. And unfortunately, that seems to have stuck on and off over the years.
Are you saying that that label stuck within your marriage?
I think people used it, and it stuck. Yes.
So the moment she saw Camilla and her sister at the party, a voice inside her mind said, "Just go for it." The very next moment, Diana walks toward Camilla and says, "I know what's going on between you and Charles, and I want you to know that. Don't treat me like an idiot. I'm sorry I'm in the way, and it must be hell for both of you, but I do know what's going on."
So I said, "Camilla, let's sit down." So we sat down, and I was terrified of her. And I said, "Camilla, I'd just like you to know that I know exactly what's going on." And she said, "I don't know what you're talking about." And I said, "I know what's going on between you and Charles, and I just want you to know that."
However, Camilla's response was something she never expected. Camilla said, "You've got everything you ever wanted. You've got all the men in the world falling in love with you, and you've got 2 beautiful children. What more do you want?" Diana said one simple answer that cleared all the doubts. "I want my husband."
And she said to me, very interesting, she said to me, "You've got everything you've ever wanted. All the men in the world fall in love with you. You've got 2 beautiful children, what more do you want?" And I didn't believe what she said anyway. So I said, "I want my husband."
When controversial British journalist Martin Bashir interviewed Diana, she was not afraid to share her thoughts in public anymore. She believed that Charles was obsessed with Camilla, and there was no point of reconciliation between the two. Now, Bashir was well known for securing interviews with one of the biggest personalities of the world. He interviewed Diana, Princess of Wales, one of the rarest interviews ever witnessed. But at the same time, this man was also known for using forgery and deception to sit face-to-face with big celebrities. Specifically speaking, Bashir used fake documents to gain trust of the younger brother of Diana, who later helped in arranging the interview with her. And his objective of this meeting was focused on asking Diana about her failed marriage with Prince Charles. Similar to what's called yellow journalism, where a journalist takes advantage of eye-catching headlines, scandal and violence to grab viewers' attention.
But now it is back in the news, with the BBC confirming suspicions of false pretenses and, quote, calculated deceit used to land the interview.
Yet you could see a stronger version of Diana. She's not only moved on, but also is ready to pursue her life independently. Around 7 months after this interview, she agreed to divorce Charles and was not afraid to lose her title of Royal Highness. In fact, at one point, Prince Philip warned Diana to behave properly, otherwise she would lose her title. Not to mention, Charles also wanted her to lose the title. But Diana responded, "My title is a lot older than yours, Philip." So we can now see a better version of Diana who has become conscious enough to doubt her own husband.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
A year before her divorce, when she experienced the brake failure, Diana wrote a note to her psychic healer, Simone Simmons, and warned about something dangerous. She said, "Dear Simone, as you know, the brakes of my car have been tampered with. If something does happen to me, it will be MI5 or MI6 who will have done it. Lots of love, Diana." Now, temporary brake failure could occur because of trapped moisture in the hydraulic lines. But Diana was so sure that just a month before holding an interview with Bashir, she had a meeting with her private secretary and her lawyer, Victor Mishkin. To them, she also expressed the fear of losing her life to a car crash. She was so confident that someone within the royal family was attempting to take her life. And within 11 months of agreeing with the terms of divorce, on the 31st of August 1997, Princess Diana encountered deadly injuries from a car accident in Paris, which eventually resulted in her death. The driver was declared heavily drunk, the media was interrupting their route, and the ambulance tried their best to save the princess, yet they failed to succeed. However, if we rewind back a few moments, if we go deeper into what actually happened before the crash, your entire perspective would instantly change. Because the actual story of this accident begins with the driver, Henri Paul. Now, Henri Paul was not a normal person driving a 1994 Mercedes-Benz S280, the same vehicle that took Diana's life. Henri had served in the French Air Force and held a pilot's license. But he was the Ritz head of security, not a professional chauffeur, and that night tests showed his blood alcohol was roughly 3 times the French limit. Not to mention, inside that tunnel where the accident happened, early reports put his speed as high as 155 kilometers per hour, though later analysis placed it near 100 kilometers per hour. And the actual speed limit was only 50 kilometers per hour. So why was there a need to reach such speeds, well above the limit at such a busy road? Henri Paul was also one of the most trusted persons of Mohammed Al-Fayed, the father of Diana's boyfriend, Dodi Fayed. This is why he was the head of security at Hotel Ritz Paris, which was owned by Al-Fayed. However, on the day of the accident, investigators found 2 crucial pieces of evidence that proved that Henri was working with someone else. Hotel Ritz Paris head of security was not to be trusted anymore. During investigation, Al-Fayed's lawyer recovered CCTV footage, where Henri was witnessed waving or signaling paparazzi across the road. That Princess Diana and her boyfriend were about to exit from this direction, but this was against what was discussed with the princess. The couple wanted to exit from the back gate of the hotel, and Henri, the most trusted person on the scene, parked the vehicle at the back side so that they can avoid photographers chasing them. Then why did he signal to French photographers before leading the couple into the car? Well, after seeing this footage, Al-Fayed believed that Henri was one of the leading suspects in killing Diana and his son. This reminded him of Diana's brake failure incident, when she suspected MI6 and her husband were planning to kill her in a car accident. Surprisingly, when investigators found around $200,000 spread across some 15 of Henri's bank accounts, Al-Fayed became more convinced that MI6 was behind this accident. Maybe Henri was acting as a secret informant to MI6. Maybe he was coordinating so perfectly with photographers that they could become the reason for speeding.
My son and Princess Diana, and I put my finger straight to the gangster who ruling the country behind the scene, who is the head of the royal household, Prince Philip. Right.
You think that you think that he stopped you?
He is the person have initiated and also in participation with Prince Charles.
So what came of the photographers? 9 photographers and a motorcyclist were charged. France's highest court dropped the manslaughter charges in 2002, ruling they were too far back to have caused the crash. 3 were later fined a symbolic €1 for invasion of privacy. It left many questions unanswered. Now, even if we avoid imagining for 1 second that Henri was not involved with MI6, how can we avoid a whistleblower from the same secret organization we're suspecting the most of?
To disorient the driver of his car. The strobe was a very, very bright flashing light, bright enough to temporarily blind someone. This would cause his car to crash, and because of proximity of concrete in the tunnel.
This is Richard Tomlinson, an ex-MI6 officer who was privately hired by Al-Fayed to investigate Diana and his son's death. When Richard analyzed the case, he revealed 2 key pieces of information that made things clear. 1, Paul was supplying information to MI6, and 2, MI6 followed the same strategy that they were planning to use against the Serbian president in 1992. But apart from what you just heard, Richard also shared another key piece of information. He said that before Diana's accident, MI6 was already monitoring her every move, and they were able to do this with the help of Diana's bodyguard. Richard could not specify the name of that bodyguard, but on that night, Trevor Rees-Jones was Diana's bodyguard. Surprisingly, Trevor Rees-Jones was the only survivor of the crash. So as he was the most important witness of the incident, he could have revealed something very crucial about the suspects. However, it turns out Trevor had a serious head injury from the accident, and he doesn't remember anything that happened that night. Or does he? Doesn't that sound strange and weird? Because in his self-published book called The Bodyguard Story, Diana, the Crash, and the Sole Survivor, it was clearly mentioned that after the accident, he suffered with extreme guilt. This is mentioned in Chapter 3 of the book, where he expressed that he used to question every day if there was anything he could have done differently to prevent this tragedy. This means while experiencing this guilt, he was going through those moments that happened just a few seconds before the accident. So don't you think he remembered what happened that night, yet was somehow trying to hide the truth?
I remember we got in a vehicle, we pulled off, and the couple of paparazzi vehicles that were at the back of the hotel started to follow us.
Now, even if we agree that Trevor is still suffering from a severe memory loss, why investigators failed to recover any CCTV footage from the crash site? There were more than 14 CCTV cameras installed around the underpass, yet some of them were not maintained by the government, while others stopped working after 11 p.m., just an hour and a half before the accident. But why? These images are shared in the Operation Paget report, an investigation that was conducted by British Metropolitan Police in 2004. And when you look at this specific image about speed and traffic light cameras, you'll find one of the biggest loopholes ever. Check this out. This is the location of the crash, and above it, the speed camera was dismantled around 6 hours before the accident. Then on the right side of it is a traffic light camera, which was not working several days before the accident. You can also see the traffic light camera at the bottom, which went out of film on the 26th, 5 days before the incident. Why? Why not 5 days after the incident? In 2008, the Inquest jury concluded that Diana was unlawfully killed through the grossly negligent driving of Henri Paul and the pursuing paparazzi. Operation Paget, the police investigation, had already reported in 2006. But the jury did not mention anything about the mysterious white Fiat Uno car, which has left traces of paint in Diana's Mercedes, because that white Fiat was responsible for dragging or pushing the Mercedes towards the pillar. Luckily, a couple remembered seeing that white Fiat coming out of that tunnel. They also noticed the driver, who they described as a brown-skinned man with short hair. But after examining 4,668 similar vehicles, they could not find a single trace of that mysterious vehicle. Not to mention, a witness by the name of Francois Levistre, who was driving ahead of Diana's car, noticed 2 unknown vehicles. They were pointing a big flash of light towards Diana's vehicle. He said this flashlight was very bright. The light even came into my car. The light was not directed towards me. It was directed towards the car which was behind. After the crash, Francois even noticed a motorcyclist getting off the vehicle, confirming something and running away. So, who were they? Well, if we discuss the list of all loopholes, then it could take hours to finish. But what matters the most is how you decide from here. How you analyze these facts to understand what really happened to Diana. Was Diana intentionally killed, or was the driver too impaired to see the pillars?